Greetings and welcome to Enigmatic. It's been a while. Sorry I've been away. Aside from working a lot, I kind of had some mental health struggles. So I'm back though. And, my mental health struggles, there's always a lesson to be learned. And so I'd like to pass that on to you. I get in my head about doing this YouTube thing a whole lot. I find myself affected by the nature of judgment that is very prevalent in the internet right now. And so I kind of get in my head. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Am I saying this the way I want to say it? Did I say too many times? Did I say like too many times? And so I really just need to do it. I mean, if Nike got one thing right, it's just do it. So here we are. Um, yeah, I kind of want to just talk a little bit about mental health and what my experience has been like the past couple weeks, because that's how long this wave, as I like to call it, has lasted, and what has changed in that time. And then just some other random observations I have, probably things that I'll do full videos on at a later date. But in keeping in line with not caring as much about kind of the way in which I get in my own way. Um, and I say that because while it can seem like it's externalized, it's really everything that's going on in my mind. When I'm going through a hypothetical scenario of a criticism that somebody might give me, I'm really creating that. Granted, it's taken from information that I've gotten external to me, but once it is going through algorithms and paradigms in my own mind, it's my own mind that I'm interacting with. So, but mental health wise, I work a lot. I had 350-hour weeks in a row, which I know that there's many people out there that work a great deal more than that. However, it's not something that I'm okay with, and I think that being okay with it makes it a little bit easier to do if you do have to work that much. Um, and because of my mental health struggles, I regularly experience things like fatigue and tiredness, high torpidity, things like that. Um, so, uh, it's a lot to manage. It's a lot to juggle, especially with working so much. I kind of wish I had more time for myself and to fulfill myself. And doing things like this, I do find fulfilling in an odd way, even though it's also hard for me to do. You know, um, there have been a lot of recommendations for me to do this. But it's interesting that when I get the recommendation, it's because I'm in discourse with someone, not just talking to myself as I kind of am doing now as I make these videos for you. So it's I'm trying to learn to have fun with everything that I'm going through. So I have what is in the UK considered complex PTSD. The closest equivalent in the United States is dissociative PTSD, and I get a lot like some just heavy waves of depression that come with it, as well as anxiety, hypervigilance, depersonalization, derealization. The list goes on, and so it's just a whole lot to juggle. And the depressive aspect of it is treatment resistant, so it's I don't feel confident that I could take a medication like an SSRI and be better. And I also don't really trust SSRIs. So what I do, or what I try to get myself to do, because it can be hard to do what's best for yourself when you are kind of getting thrashed around internally. But I kind of lean on psychedelics. I don't necessarily recommend that other people do the same. I've done a lot of research. I've also done a lot of work with psychedelics, but it's just the one of the things that really does help me. And so that being said, I'm feeling a bit better today, even though I'm still kind of going through it in some ways. But I had a very beneficial ketamine journey yesterday, and I had a phenomenal guide to help me as well. And I had been very, very nervous and anxious for this experience during the week. I knew that it was going to be happening on Friday, and there was a lot of anxiety. I thought it was going to be a much harder experience. I thought I was going to have to confront a lot more things than I really need to. And that apprehension, that trepidation, that fear and anxiety they're all part and parcel for the mental health struggles that I have, because in the long run they were completely out of place and irrational. Which isn't to say that everything needs to be rational, but in this regard, the application of these concerns and misgivings were completely out of place. It ended up being a very deep and healing journey that I really needed, with a lot of insights that I needed to be provided with by sorry that I needed to be given by the space, as well as I needed to provide to myself. So um, yeah, that's that. But one of the things that I did want to kind of talk about, even just briefly, I'll probably do a longer video on it. Part of me wanted to do this one just because I wanted to get it out there. I want to have this be a habit and something that I can turn into something bigger, um, or even just practice, expressing myself without giving a shit, what anybody else has to say about it or think about it. Because really, like, it's kind of funny. I was having a conversation with a friend about this, but to a very like certain extent, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. um, and let me rephrase that. I don't give a shit what somebody thinks if it's not thoughtful. If it's not laden with understanding and noticing like the multifactorial aspects of the situation that might be in question. If it's just kind of off the cuff or hasn't been thought about, I don't really care. If it seems like a out of place or unnecessary judgment, I just don't care. In regards to how is it going to impact how I think. What I do care about when it comes to other people and what they think is what kind of nonsense and bullshit I might have to deal with as a result of their thinking. Because thought leads to belief, or to, like, thought leanings. I say thought leanings because I don't really have beliefs. I like lean one way until I have enough information to make me lean another way. But there's a lot of things that go into understanding a situation, and if I feel like somebody hasn't tried to cover those bases, then I just kind of don't give a shit, and I just am concerned about what kind of nonsense I have to deal with as a result of it. Because as I was trying to say before, our thoughts lead to our beliefs or our leanings lead to our actions lead to our behaviors. Um, so, for example, I kind of care if somebody's a racist, because then I have to deal with their bullshit because they're a racist and they have poor thinking in regards to why somebody of a different race is inferior to them. And what's funny about that is it doesn't even matter, what race the person that's being racist is. Like, there's a huge fallacy and divide in thought that I'm not trying to interact with in any way. So me being a black man, this also includes black people, and I find people across the board, it doesn't matter what race you are fucking racist. And I think that racism is prevalent because it's almost a cognitive bias for us to latch on to those and other things that are similar to us. It's tribalism, but then also bigotry on the whole is a learned action and behavior. Um, and there's a lot of people that, as they grow up, they don't question certain things as they continue to age. And some of those ideas just get further instantiated into their thinking. And it kind of comes back to a saying that I think I've shared before. The first things that one learns are usually the last things that one questions. So let me try to say that again without stuttering over it. The first things that one learns are usually the last things that one questions. And this isn't, when I say that, it's not just about, particular bits and pieces of information, but also about how people use information and how people align and sort information as well. And how what patterns and algorithms that their mind goes through that they take as a priority for their mind to go through. So, for example, there's some people that are very black and white in their thinking. Me personally, I try to be expansive in my thinking, which is one of the reasons why I don't really have beliefs, um, and why I lean towards paradox so much. Because I don't, as a skeptic, I don't care about knowing as much as I do about understanding. And if there's something that I want to be able to argue against, I think it's, prudent for us to be aware of what we're trying to argue against and to try to fully understand it outside of the framework that we want to argue against it with. And so I bring all this up because you can't help but notice that people are judgmental. And I'm definitely not going to be one to say don't judge, but I am going to highlight what is it that we're doing with our judgments and why is it that we make certain judgments. Because I do think that there's times we make innocuous judgments about things that don't really matter. Um, I think a really good one and an easy one for me to go to is when a guy paints his nails. Who fucking cares? And I think it's funny that another man might decide that a guy with painted nails deserves less respect from him. And it's like, get over yourself, for one. Like, I understand that a guy painting his nails isn't the status quo, but the status quo isn't everything. And so, why should anybody have to concede to what you think they need to be? You wouldn't want to concede to what anybody else thinks that you need to be. So why are we pushing that on other people? And it's interesting because we live in quote unquote the land of the free, but we're very willing to say, who should do what and when and why and where, effectively overriding another person's freedoms. Um, and it's like I said, it's just interesting to me because it's so hypocritical. And it's like why you don't have openly gay people in men's sports because other people give that much of a shit about what goes on behind closed doors for somebody else, thinking naive things like, oh, it's going to turn my kids gay and things like that. And it's like people aren't turned gay. And it goes back to what I was saying about people not trying to understand before they cast a judgment. There's so many people that want to castigate and vilify another person, and they haven't tried to stand in their shoes first. To go back a little bit, um, this is kind of brutal, and I don't like that. I think this, and I think that some of my thinking of this is inauthentic. It's just a kind of a knee jerk response when I'm frustrated. But I think people are pretty fucking dumb. But there's a huge but because in what we're talking about and the people that I've like highlighted so far, there are plenty of people that think people are dumb and they treat people like they're dumb. And they will also make it seem like it's their fault that they're dumb when we're all born with different capabilities and capacities for other capabilities. And so I might find somebody dumb. I'm not going to treat them like they're dumb because it might not be their fault that they're dumb. I don't know. And if anything, it makes the world go around better if we treat each other as best as possible rather than based on our internal responses of a limited understanding and like also based on a lack of information, some of which we cannot have. I will never be able to spectate another person's life and the things that happened to them that led to them making certain choices in their lives that make them the person that they are that I'm interacting with today. So it's I feel isolated because I think in these ways, but this is what's authentic to me, and that's like another issue that I have is that when we're so concerned with like judging other people, it makes it so that other people don't want to be as authentic. And it also makes it so that we don't want to be as authentic because we're aware of judgment as well. When somebody judges someone else, they tend to be a little bit more sensitive to judgments also, especially value judgments. That's really what we're talking about here. But they tend to be more sensitive to it because they've witnessed themselves do it. It's almost like in a relationship where you have one partner that has been very much honorable and trustworthy in the relationship, never cheated or anything like that, but they're accused by their partner of cheating and things like that because the partner has cheated before. Like if you're willing to do it, then you know that it's out there and you become paranoid about it also. And so what I'm moving towards is that we can't help but make judgments, but we should really do some deep reflection on the judgments that we make and why we make them, especially the ones that we choose to speak. Because I mean, like I said, we all make judgments. It's actually natural for us to make judgments. It's a subset of discernment, but it's what are we doing with those judgments? I think that it's so fascinating to me how people's self esteem is so low and they're so oblivious to it that they have to judge somebody, whether it's to that person's face or to other people, in order to really make themselves feel better about how they think and how they stand in the world. Um, when it's like, why do you care? You care because there's something going on with you that you're not okay with. Um, so yeah, it's funny and it's interesting, and I'm trying to like it's funny. I'm getting in my own head about how I'm doing this right now, but these are some of my thoughts, and I'm just kind of sharing them. So, but yeah, I thank you for listening and for being here, for just spectating as I try to figure this out. I kind of one of the other ways in which I get inside my head about doing these videos for YouTube is based on the videos that I watch. I watch a lot of high quality videos with people that have been doing this for a very, very long time that know things about video editing and that have invested in nicer mics and things like that. Speaking of which, this is a different mic. I hope you hear me better. Please let me know if you don't. But I'm new to this and I'm kind of doing it just to see what happens and what kind of effect I have. I think that it's kind of clear that I don't think to do these kinds of things on my own. It's usually when I get insight and feedback from other people that I choose to try to do something like this. I don't like seeking attention, but I would like to put something of value out there. And even if that's just, critical diatribes about this, that, or the other, then hopefully, it's enjoyable and there's something to be gained from it. So I thank you. It's good to be back. I plan to do some more videos here soon. And I guess the other thing I should not be too hard on myself about when I do this is that I don't write a script. I don't plan this out. If I want to do a video, I kind of think about what do I want to talk about, make some bullet points in my head, and then just wing it. And I'm kind of having fun winging it in this way. And it helps me to work on my speaking as well. Because I've noticed that as I've gotten older, I don't quite speak and interact as much. And that's partly because I'm bored. And you lose practice of doing things like finding the right words in the moment sometimes. Now, granted, that's also a mental health issue. It's just my brain fog from dealing with so much internally. So yeah, it's good to be back. I thank you all. I thank everybody for the support. If you enjoyed, please give a like. If you enjoyed even more, please give a subscribe. Be good to you. Be good to yourself. Um, be good to others. Try to watch your judgments. And much love. Take care.